Alright, I got 5 more books here back from CGC. So let me get them unboxed and we'll see what's in here. Okay, so the first book's Amazing Spider-Man Annual, number 21, the wedding issue, newsstand version. Now last week we got a fairly harsh grader. We were a little bit lower on our grades than we expected. We still got good grades, but they weren't like the normal grades that we get from CGC. So we got a little bit of harsh Harry last week. Let's hope for somebody else this week, maybe Loose Larry, maybe Accurate Andy, like somebody mentioned in the comments. That would be very, very nice. Now this one was the nicest book of the batch. It's an obvious 9.8, so that will tell us where the wind's blowing based on whatever grade we get on this one. So did we get our 9.8, or are we going to start off like last week and get a much lower grade than we expect? Let's find out. We did start with our 9.8. Very good. Yeah, not gonna... Actually, you know what? I had pre-screened this one previously and failed. So I resubmitted it. And now we got the 9.8. So glad that I did. Wow, this book looks great. I already have a 9.8 copy newsstand. So it's up there on the wall. So I'm probably going to sell that one. White pager too, so that's good. All right, the next one is a big book, Big Key. Some people call it the first appearance of Gambit. Some people call it the second appearance of Gambit. But chronologically, I think it is the first appearance of Gambit. X-Men Annual number 14. Got a 9.8 right up there. You know, as that appeared on the newsstands or whatever, that was the first appearance. But I think this one was intended to come first. So whatever camp you're in, it doesn't matter. They're both great books. This is obviously the cover people want, though, so this one has the more value because it's a great display book showing Gambit for the first time on a cover. So this one was probably had the most defects of any of the books in the submission. So, but I thought it was a solid 9.6, and I think there's an outside chance of a 9.8. There is a small little tiny corner crease on the back. Corner. Now it's a white back, so you can't really see it, but it is there. If you get it at an angle, you can see that tiny little crease. So that should prevent us from getting the 9.8, because otherwise this book is pretty close, if not a 9.8. So that's what I consider the limiting factor. Now if somebody overlooks that or doesn't weight it very high, or because it's white they don't count it as a crease, it is possible this book could get a 9.8. So, well, let's just go ahead and find out. What does the grader think of this X-Men number 266? Okay, a little bit harsh. It's definitely not a 9.4 book. Where is it? I thought I had a copy of this on the wall. It's up here now. This book is about on par with my 9.8 that I have. In fact, the front probably presents nicer than my 9.8. So... I mean, I was just looking for the 9.6 here. I wasn't looking for a 9.8. So not sure why we got the 9.4, because this is pretty sure this is an obvious 9.6. I think 80% of the time this gets 9.6, and then maybe 15% 9.8. I would say 5% of graders would give this a 9.4. It's a little bit disappointing, but I don't think there's a huge difference between 9.4 and 9.6, besides just the grade on the slab. I think monetarily, I could be wrong. I don't think price-wise there's a huge difference. Somebody's going to be very happy to have one of the best presenting 9.4s you could possibly hope for in that book. So I'll be able to sell that, no problem. The next book is a very cool Daredevil. It doesn't say anything up here, but I'm almost certain this is a minor key, but I can't remember why. I did read this back in the day, but I haven't read it in 30-something years. So yeah, Daredevil number 229. This one is worth quite a bit of money in a newsstand if you happen to get the 9.8. I think this is a borderline 9.6, 9.8. It's somewhere between the last two books. I only paid $16 for this book. So no matter what grade it gets, 9.4 or higher, I'm doing okay on this book. There is a couple tiniest little color breaks on the front spine. One right there, and I can't see the other one right here. Very tiny though. Like, I see them here, but I've seen 9.8s have that. But that's about the limit you should see on a 9.8. looks pretty perfect otherwise. So I think probably 75% of the time this gets a 9.6, 20% 9.8, and then the crazy grader Harsh Harry could give us a 9.4. So let's just find out right now. Okay, we got the 9.6, which is fine. If you get the 9.8 in this book, it is a lot of money. I believe I just sold a newsstand 9.8 of this book for like $700 or something, $6.99, some crazy amount. So it's very, very hard to get with this spine to get the 9.8. So, but be very happy to have the 9.6 white pages there. So yeah, next two, we got a Thor, 384. First appearance of Future Thor. Very nice cover, newsstand. It's got a little bit of value. This is about the same as the last book as far as defects go. This one might be a slightly bit nicer. I only paid $4 for this book. So let's just go ahead and see what the grader thinks of this gorgeous copy of Thor number 384. You got the 9.8. Okay. I actually had this book slightly, like by just a tick, but pretty much the same as this one, but just a slight tick less nice. And I don't know why, but you can see the spine here is nicer because obviously because of the white on the spine, it's harder to get color breaks. So maybe that's it. Maybe this grader was just spine happy. Sometimes you'll get a grader that bases his entire grading system on what the spine looks like. Like I've seen perfect spines on books with corner creases and just crazy stuff going on other places and got 9.8 or 9.6. But then I've seen beat up spines that were just perfect everywhere else that got 9.8. It's not all about the spine. Some people think it's all about the spine. It's not. It certainly is one of the areas you need to look at, but there's 4 or 5 other areas of the book. You need to look at the spine, you gotta look at the edges, you gotta look at the corners, you gotta look at the interior. Don't forget the interior. You gotta look at the center areas of the book. You gotta look at corners. If I didn't already say corners, bottom and top of spine are important. It's everything looked at, you know, you gotta take a step back and look at it as a whole, not just focus on one area of the book. And that's sometimes what people do, and I see it all the time. I'll see somebody listing a book as a near mint copy, even near mint plus, and you'll say, okay, yeah, great looking spine, but there's a little piece missing here, or what's this tear down here? You know what I mean? I'm sure you guys see that all the time when you're looking for books. So yeah, I'm thrilled to get the 9.8. I'm not sure what this is worth, but it's not zero. It's worth more than it was when I bought it for $4. And this last one, Big Key, first appearance Killer Croc. You know, I wasn't a big DC guy back in the day. I did collect some DC, but I missed this one. This is from '83, and yeah, pretty big key. And so I thought it was about on par with the Thor that we just did. It's definitely a 9.6 or 9.8. Let me look at my notes real quick. Okay, there's a slight little tiniest miniature corner crease right here. That's going to keep it from getting 9.8 for sure. There's also a fairly significant bindery tear on the bottom of the spine. Yeah, right there. Don't know if you can see that. Pretty significant. So there is no way this is a 9.8. I think this limits us to 9.2. So I think while this book on my grading tool grades 9.6, I think once you take that into account, you have to, because that's what it is. My grading tool will give you one grade, but then you have to do a reality check. Is there a stain that limits us, like a certain size stain, tear, whatever? Now, because it's bindery, this is what I'm curious about. It's obviously a bindery tear, so it shouldn't limit us as much as other things. So if I was thinking like, if it was a normal tear, I would say 9.2. But because it's bindery, does that mean it could get 9.4 or maybe even 9.6? I don't think it would be crazy to see a 9.6 on this. But that's why I'm curious. And I think this grader is solid. I don't think he's harsh, and I don't think he or she is ultra conservative either. I think conservative on the conservative side, but probably decent based on the grades I'm saying, because it's not, none of the grades are crazy. Pretty much agreeing with me so far. Except for the 9.4. What was that? But anyway, so yeah, 357 Killer Croc. Now this is worth a lot of money in the higher grades, so let's just see. What does the grader think about this? That is cool. So we learned something today. Because surely you would not miss looking at that tear right there. Can you see that? That's pretty significant. So apparently that does not hurt the grade as much as I thought it would. So yeah, we'll be very excited to get a 9.6. That's worth quite a bit of money, especially in a... I don't know if a newsstand matters this much on this one, but yeah, that is a beautiful copy of Batman 357. That will sell instantly when I list it for sale. This book always moves very quickly. So that's it for today. Stay nerdy, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.